right.
Zach.
I'm David.
And this is the podcast where we trek through Trek one episode at a time, Stardate by Stardate. And this is our fifth episode Terra Nova of Star Trek Enterprise. No specified star date.
Season 1 of Star Trek Enterprise.
That's right, Season 1, Stardate somewhere in 2151. I think it's between April and June of that year.
Mm-hmm.
And this episode is basically the Terra Novan puzzle solved at last, as told by Ensign Travis Mayweather.
That's right.
So 70 years before this episode, I believe they Starfleet has lost contact with the Terra Nova colony. The Terra Nova colony is one of the first colonies that went out into space and
attempted to colonize another planet.
Yeah, there you go.
It is actually the first expedition to go colonize. It's not one of the first. It is the first. I confirm that.
Okay. That's good. That's why.
Just check your facts, boy.
That's why we're a team.
Yeah, that's why we do the podcast together.
In Wade and I's podcast, we'd say there's fact checking, but in this one, we're trying to be factual.
That's right.
But yeah, so a little house cleaning. You can email us at thestarcompanion@gmail.com. Our Twitter is actually thestarcompanion. I'll be sure to try and buy the Star Companion at some point. Probably not. We're on all major podcast platforms for all of our listeners that are out there. Thank you. It has been fun so far, and we don't intend on stopping.
No, we don't. Not until the end.
Not until the end.
Not until we sit down with the boys at the poker table and say, "I should have done this sooner."
Oh my god! I don't even want to bring that up. That might be. I think I almost teared up. There was almost a moment of like,
card.
It's an ugly cry.
Card's finally one of the boys.
God damn it! It's pretty upsetting. Whatever. This isn't the next generation.
No, we'll get there.
We will.
A couple hundred episodes.
We will. A couple hundred, maybe no, yeah, a couple hundred actually, yeah. So anyway, what did you think of this episode?
I thought it was a good episode. I thought there were some elements of Lord of the Flies in there.
Yeah, very Lord of the Flies. I wrote that down. The whole face painting aspect.
Yeah. And it brings up the idea that's been, I mean, it's kind of a classic trope or maybe theme. How fast humans can descend into anarchy if left, basically
unchecked.
Unchecked or unsupervised. Especially when, because the people who are living on Terra Nova now, they're descendants of the original colonists. And the original colonists thought that Earth was the one who bombed Terra Nova, which is why the radiation came. So these descendants think that people from Earth are actually evil, and so it's just that classic, how far and how fast humans can descend away from civilization and humanity if left unchecked and given the wrong information.
Yeah. Now, the did you see who is directing?
Yes.
This episode? Yeah,
that's right.
It's LeVar Burton's first directing contribution to Star Trek. He went on to direct 8 more episodes across all 4 seasons of Enterprise.
Yeah.
And I know how much you like continuity.
I do.
And so I took some continuity notes for you.
Perfect.
This episode is 1 in 9. Go ahead.
Can we pause it this second, by the way? Because I think my dad's home and he's probably going to walk by and be like, "Sup?"
Okay. Yeah. We'll clap on the way back in.
Yeah.
I'm going to clap now for my sake.
Perfect.
Cool. Well.
Sorry to stop the flow. Anyways.
Anyway, so um bone, bone, bone. Bone, bone,
Boom, boom,
bone.
boom.
Bone, bone, bone. Bone, bone, bone.
So that's funny. So you're gonna edge Phil out, or you're gonna talk to Cheryl about it eventually?
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. I'm not having this shit, man.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Because honestly, man, he should have been taking care of that stuff already. You know?
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, that's just indicative of the whole thing.
And I think Cheryl would probably want to keep you around more than she'd want to keep him around. You know?
They give you a wasabi? Is that what that was?
All right. I think we're good now.
All right.
Do you remember where you left off?
Yeah, continuity.
Continuity, that's right. Okay. Ready?
Yeah, 1, 2. Okay. Pardon the intermission.
Had a bit of an interruption there.
So I took some continuity notes for you, and they are as follows. This episode is one of 9 Star Trek episodes with Latin names.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, meaning New Earth. The others are Sub Rosa, Dramatis Personae, Inter Arma, Enim Silent Legis, Ex Post Facto, Non Sequitur, Alter Ego, Vox Sola, Si Vis Pacem, and Parabellum.
And these aren't all Enterprise, right? These are across all the different iterations.
Across all of them, yeah. This is the first episode to name Phlox's species on screen as Denobulan. And near the end of the episode, Mayweather mentions the mystery of Amelia Earhart, and this mystery was solved 220 years later by the crew of Voyager.
Interesting.
Which will be fun to when we get there. And we got the LeVar Burton directing. And the location of Terra Nova appeared more detailed on star charts, which are seen on bulletin boards and Trip Tucker's and other crew members' quarters, though not readable on screen. You know, I very much like this episode. Like we were saying earlier, the whole fly to the Lord of the Flies aspect is pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the whole childlike language was so ham-handed, but
I felt so too.
Yeah.
Is your belly hollow?
Is your belly hollow? Like they forgot how to say hungry, man. Come on.
Right.
You know the parents are saying hungry. And of course some fucking loser boomer loves the story of Terra Nova.
Boomer.
Yeah, so those are the Mayweather's a boomer. He's a
oh, that's right. Yeah.
a kid born on a shipment,
on a rig. Space rig.
yeah. Like a Fat Mike sort of trucking
Yeah.
trucking scenario. We got a friend who's a trucker. You know, watching Archer meander through the caves is pretty fun though. When he first walks in, dad looking serious, peering through. You know, it was a good episode. Just I feel like there are certain things that were poorly. It's just ham-handed. Yeah, you know, this is definitely a good monster of the week type episode.
Yeah, you know they did do things that like you said, ham-handed, and they just do it to remind you that these people have been separated from Earth for 70 plus years now. So it's like, hey, here's a reminder that these guys aren't exactly Earth humans.
Yeah, they're human, but they're not. And then, of course, they cure the girl's cancer. Mm-hmm. They're super distrustworthy, and Archer, saves a Novan out of the goodness of his heart, which in turn creates a sense of trust between him and.
And if you want to talk about a ham-handed moment, when he's trying to rescue that guy from the water, he's like, he's gonna drown, and he's just like,
yeah.
It's like he couldn't just do a sit-up and raise himself up a little bit.
Lift up a little bit, man. and then they slice a tree in half.
Yeah.
I've never lifted a tree, but I have tried to lift some rocks,
Mm-hmm.
and that Terra Nova must be very strong in comparison to Archer. No way Dad knows how to lift a tree
It's the
like
digger
that.
meat. It's the digger meat provides a certain level of vitality, and I would say
Mm-hmm.
fertility as well. I do like how they play digger skull flutes as well at dinner
Okay,
time.
I'm glad we brought this up. Uh, so it's where did I write this down? Uh, don't mind us. It's our nightly skeletal serenade from the Skull Squad. Like, and of course they sound great. And
And the
so
music is somber to imply that, these are people who have fallen on rough times. They've seen better days, but they still have hope, you know?
do they, or they just have pride? Is it just pride?
It's probably just pride, yeah.
In the words of Marcellus Wallace, it's
That's
just pride fucking
with you.
Yeah, there you go. You know, Reed gets snatched at one point, and then that's how the Novans get a little leverage.
Mm-hmm.
Just so many. Just
if there's one thing that I did like though,
there you go.
When they first come to Terra Nova, like the little encampment or whatever, Archer walks over to one of the buildings and he's like, oh, this is part of the ship that came here. So, they used the ship as, buildings when they got there. And I was like, yeah, that would make sense because if you're early settlers, you would want to bring stuff along with you. And it makes...
Good. You're not getting supplies.
Yeah, exactly. And you're not going to be able to forge metal immediately when you get down there. And you better hope they have trees too, because you're going to need to saw some logs and start some fires.
Yep.
Anyways,
it didn't look like the encampment really grew very much beyond the initial people.
Yeah, no.
Despite 70 years of living in caves. Did you know?
And the bike tire that Reed spun around in one of the beginning scenes, it was still inflated, which I find highly improbable.
Looks like they got that at REI when they got the camping equipment a couple episodes earlier. Did you know the planned trip to Mars? So they're going to fly into Mars. This is not Star Trek. And the first settlers are going to build some stuff, and then they're going to be able to get back in their ship and fly up to what they left in space. Because since there's less atmosphere on Mars, you don't need the same kind of fuel you would need to leave Earth.
Wow.
The same sorts of rockets, so they can have rockets just on their little pod and shoot back up to their thing, reattach, and fly back to Earth.
I didn't know that.
It spins back around, yeah. It's fucking brilliant.
Crazy. And they're going to bring down all their bubble pods.
Pods.
I like how whenever we think of inhabiting or colonizing Mars, it's in like tarp-covered structures made out of glass or some sort of high-tech see-through space plastic.
Yeah, I mean, I got this. My change drawer is actually a model for a Mars habitat. I actually had that for a long time. Did you notice Archer said, "Are we there yet?"
When?
Pretty early on when they were getting to Terra Nova. Dad jumps in and he goes, "Are we there yet?" And I just thought, so he probably deals with them all the time.
Yeah.
Asking if they're there yet. And it's like, thanks, Dad. We're not there yet. We're not. There's good moments. Like, if I can't make first contact with humans, I don't have any business being out there. Captain, do you think anybody's still there? I'll let you know in about 3 hours and 17 minutes. Thanks, Dad.
I did like, near the end of the episode, they're trying to decide what to do with these people because they find out that their water supply is irradiated and
Mm-hmm.
it's causing their uh, like a breakdown at the cellular level.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the conflict becomes, do we take them with us? Do we take them back to Earth? Or do we leave them here? Or what do we do? And T'Pol makes a pretty convincing argument that, it's like, hey, this is a culture here, this is, and it's a new civilization. We should leave them here. And so
Mm-hmm.
their compromise is that they ship them off to the southern hemisphere.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because they won't. What are you gonna just bring them back into society? They're
yeah,
savages.
with mud on their faces as well.
Yeah. So I read Gathering Blue as a kid,
hmm
Lois Lowry, and blue's really hard to come by as a
hmm
color.
Yeah.
And all I could think about was where'd they get the blue for the face paint? Because I saw the diggers, and the little diggers weren't blue. So these are questions that I need answers to, LeVar.
Irradiated space soil.
Mm-hmm. That's probably it.
That's what I'm going for.
Um, I don't suppose there's a lavatory on the premises. I wouldn't mind freshening up a little bit. Well, is he British? He's British, right? Reed?
Is he? Yes, he is. I was gonna say Australian for a second, but he doesn't have the ex-prison colony accent that Australians have.
um, there's something amazingly transcendent though for an episode like Terra Nova because our planet is careening towards an impending doom as a global society.
hmm
And so it makes sense that some people would want to shove off to space and try and fend for themselves out there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think there are implications in this episode that really are
Real.
real. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other part of this episode, it's they go to Terra Nova, and Terra Nova has pretty much failed as an experiment, you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I feel like, especially as we're looking towards colonizing Mars and perhaps the moon one day, I feel like the early attempts, like if they don't fail, we need to, if we don't want them to fail, we have to be extremely careful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's going to be interesting to see how that proceeds. And that, I mean, that's kind of a conversation you and I have had lately. Is like, would you be one
Yeah.
of the first colonists of
I
Mars?
was just about to ask.
And it's
And
like I would do it, but I wouldn't be the first.
I don't want to be first.
Yeah, you want to wait till it's kind of fleshed out and
Yeah.
you're not you just get there and you have to basically make something out of nothing.
I want to be able to take my shoes off.
Yeah. After
You
a
know?
long space flight.
Yeah. Did you know the astronauts have to work out for 3 hours a day? So
Yeah,
they're
because their
fucking
muscles atrophy.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so, it honestly sounds like a chore right
hmm
now getting to space.
Yeah.
Another fun fact. Did you know Bill Nye tried out to be an astronaut 4 times and was rejected every time?
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I think it's because he's too tall.
I think it's a bow tie. He walked in, they're like, nope.
um
Why did I fail? We can't tell you.
Yeah, no thanks.
He's got to figure this bow tie thing out on his own. Shows up with the bow tie again.
Yeah.
Nope.
So a lot of this episode, a lot of people, including Brandon Braga, cite this as their least favorite episode in all of Star Trek Enterprise.
Really?
There happens to be an irony there. It was just about finding a lost colony of humans, but it was boring, and it was
Mm-hmm.
unfortunate that it was such an early episode. He also described it as terrible. One of several first season mediocre scripts, which were an attempt to go after something which were visually improved to a
Mm-hmm.
great extent by the cast and production crew. Braga concluded by calling it not a bad concept, but not a good episode.
Yeah, since we've been analyzing these episodes more thoroughly, there's a lot to be said in terms of criticism of the episodes, and I see where some of the people are coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Before I was looking at it with the critical eye that I am looking at it with now, it's like I was like, it's Star Trek, but I've noticed
Yeah.
that these episodes are noticeably more milk toast and innocent.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of strife and conflict that come into play.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I forget if we were discussing in real life or on an earlier episode, but
mhm.
the actor who plays Phlox,
Yes.
really had a lot of trouble with the first season because they just wouldn't kill anybody. There was no real terror, no real strife, no
Hmm.
problems.
And it's
Things.
interesting. It's interesting that they make that distinction because a lot of this first season so far has been about the struggle of them going to space and figuring out what life is like in space. And it's like,
Mhm.
okay, so all these personal problems befall you guys, but no one dies,
Yeah.
you know?
So it just works out,
Yeah.
and I mean, I get it. I totally get it. It's just, it's hard to draw the line between it was a shitty episode, but it's still good to me because I like Star Trek.
Hmm.
But this definitely isn't. I would, if I were to make a list of like the top 10 episodes of Star Trek, I wouldn't be like, you got to check out Terra Nova.
Yeah.
You know, far from it. I think the pessimistic sort of attitude that is present in this episode is pretty on par
Hmm.
with like what society is like today,
Hmm.
but that's not very much in Roddenberry's vision of
Hmm.
a enlightened future.
Yeah, you're correct.
You know,
You're very
um,
correct.
let's see. What the fuck was the point of the face painting? Just to look like you're a savage?
Yeah, I think it's to further imply that, like, hey, these guys are really primitive.
Um, yeah. I just there. So I have some other thoughts here.
Hmm.
Um, Trip's all miffed that T'Pol doesn't know anything about early Earth history.
Yeah. And
Duh,
then she's
dog.
like, what do you know about Vulcan history? He's like, oh, it was mandatory in school and I don't remember anything.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So you're chief engineer, but a bad student.
Yeah.
I want to fuck him. Because he's like the love interest. No wonder you got pregnant.
Yeah.
And the let's see.
If there is one positive note, I guess, of this episode, it would be that, you know, even though these humans from Terra Nova, the Novans have become more savage and more primitive,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, they are able to reconnect with the Enterprise, and they're able to reconnect with humans again. So it is inspiring, and it is, promising that, even after all this time and all this distance spent away from regular humans, that we're still able to reconnect back with our larger culture and society.
Yeah. Yeah. There must be some sort of like olfactory, subconscious, like, that's a human.
Yeah.
He's one of us. Yeah. I mean, enjoyable.
Yeah. Just classic
Totally.
Star Trek, bro.
That guy, the main guy, he plays other characters. I just saw him in DS9.
Hmm. I think he also plays the clown in American Horror Story,
Oh my god, yeah.
the circus season.
I think so.
Yeah.
I definitely think so.
Maybe not. Maybe he was in Star Wars as well. I don't remember.
Yeah, he's just one of those guys, like a poor man's Paul Giamatti.
Yeah, exactly. He's just everywhere. I've seen him a lot in a lot of different shows.
Yeah. Well, you got anything
I'd
else?
say that about does it.
All right. Well, so it's been the Star Companion episode of Star Trek Enterprises episode 5, Terra Nova.
Terra Nova.
If you liked what you heard, you can send us some goodies on Patreon. Just search the Star Companion. We're on all major platforms. Send us an email. Catch us out on Twitter, The Star Companion. We're at The Star Companion on Instagram. We got some memes out there. David, a wizard with Photoshop. You'd think he's been doing it his whole life. All right.
I've only been doing it for the last month.
Yeah.